Okay, all righty then. We are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment here. Cross our fingers and toes in hopes that Facebook connects as it should. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing, oh golly, I forgot to connect Instagram. So I'll do that. I'll do that here in a minute. But I think we're good. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, we sit here now on the 19th of May, steadily inching closer to the dreaded NFL desert, that 6-week period between the end of mandatory minicamp and the beginning of training camp. But we still have, Zack, a couple of voluntaries camps to go through, plus a mandatory. There's still some material that we can sink our teeth into, but we're not there yet, dude. We're still a solid week away from the next voluntary camp. But first things first, dude, Julius Thomas says, Broncos, go sign Von Miller. He's still out there, dude. I honestly didn't think he would languish this long. I figured some team trying to compete would have swooped him up a lot sooner. What's the story on that?
Well, him and Justin Simmons, both still free agents. Two Broncos legends toiling away on the open market. And I read that Simmons can go to the Eagles, but nothing with Von Miller. And you mentioned the offseason, Chad. It's pretty much the only reason why I wrote this. Former Broncos tight end Julius Thomas was on the Up and Adams show with everyone's favorite Kay Adams. And he basically urged Denver to go out and sign Von Miller. He said that Von can still have a couple good rushes every game. Can he play 60 snaps a game? I don't know, but he still has some of the old magic left in him. So why not give it a shot? It's off-season conjecture, Chad, and I think little more than that.
No doubt. And as I'm seeing once again, dadgummit, we're struggling to connect. So I just got to send this real quick. We're live over here, y'all. All right. Hopefully the peeps on Facebook see that and all will be well. But yeah, Zack, it's one of those things where I'm kind of torn on the subject. If you look at what Von Miller or these mercenary type former prolific high-level pass rushers like the prototype that Dwight Freeney kind of started in his day, the Broncos do check a lot of those boxes in terms of a team that is missing that one or two pieces to kind of help them get over the top as a Super Bowl contender. However, Zack, are they really missing the pass rush? I'm not.
No.
You know, they had whatever 30, we'll just call it 30 sacks from their rush linebacker core. But the one thing Von Miller would bring, Zack, aside from the feel-good vibes and the reunion vibes and the championship vibes and all that, is he can set the edge in the run. You know, you could bring him in and whatever problems or weaknesses that, say, a Nick Bonito might have, or even a Jonathan Cooper to a lesser degree, Von Miller could be your base downs, and then you find different pass rushing packages to keep him in. I mean, I'm just trying to think creatively. The fit, other than Zack, the obvious that it would be a homecoming, the fit's not that obvious, but the Broncos do check some of those boxes.
I mean, as I wrote, it could be he comes back in a ceremonial role at like a one-day contract to retire as a Bronco. He could be eventually hired as a positional coach, working with the next generation of pass rushers. But I think his time suiting up for Denver, Chad, those days are long over. I just don't see, based on what he did in Buffalo or lack thereof, what he could offer. Even as a run-stuffing edge setter, he's been more injury-prone. He has some off-the-field baggage lately. I just think, David said X's are X's for a reason. I've always subscribed to that personally and professionally. And I think that Von Miller era, Chad, is simply over.
Sam Bam jumping in with a generous super. Thank you, big dog. So great to see you. He says, evening, guys. Yep, it's summer. Pardon me, frog in my throat. And still have a lot of time to fill until training camp, but it will get here. Anyhow, only sign Von if very cheap. Go Broncos. The Broncos right now, Zack, without doing all the top 51 arithmetic, they have roughly just over 16 million in cap space. They could afford him so long as he wasn't asking for a Brinks truck. But we got to remind everybody, Von Miller, Zack, just turned 36 in March. Like, how much longer is he going to keep playing? Does he really need a last dance, right? He's got 2 rings. He's collected just about every individual accolade he could possibly, with the exception of just always kind of came up short those years that he would pop would be like the big years that JJ Watt would pop. So he never quite got defensive player of the year. I don't think off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure he never quite was a sack champ. His career high 18 and a half in 2012. So those ships have sailed. He's not going to be a defensive player of the year again. He's not going to lead the league in sacks. So what else is there to fight for? I don't know, dude. You made all the money there is to make, right? Like you've got the rings, the accolades. It might be time. Papa Bear, great to see you. And then I'm serving it over to Zach. Says, good evening, Broncos country. Chad, Zach, Deacon, Scott. Hashtag 13 and 4. Plus MHH for life. Buckham ×3. Broncos for life. Let's go, Bo. God bless the USA. Yeah, Zach, what's there left to fight for? Love you, Papa Bear.
I think you nailed it there. I was thinking to myself, he won 2 Super Bowls. He won Super Bowl MVP. He had like 8 Pro Bowls, Chad. A $120 million contract with the Bills, not including the money he made with the Broncos. He's going to be a future first ballot Hall of Famer. This is the problem, though, when you're at that level for so long, when Father Time catches up, you don't want to admit it. You want to deny it. And I think he's fighting that battle right now.
MBLE text prep. I always forget the X because it's like MBLE and elemental Peter. I'm trying to teach my son. He knows it by now, but going through the ABCs with them, they always try to elemental P, MBLEX test prep. That's where my mind goes, and then I get jumbled. Thank you for the super chat, Big Dog. He says, pumped for the meet and greet. See you in Lot D. Amen, bro. It's going to be so dope. Week 7, Giants. We're crossing our fingers that Russ will be the starter just for craps and gigs to finally kind of get Zach that revenge ghost exercise, so to speak. Not that what's there really to revenge? The Broncos traded for him of their own free will. They paid him of their own free will. I think he did the best he could. He was just tapped, dude. He was tapped. But still, we'll have some of those storylines, hopefully, Zach, to look forward to week 7.
Listen, in hindsight, we all loved it, Chad, but Russell Wilson did not make it easy on himself. He put a bullseye on his back with "Let's Ride," the high knees, the cheesy motivational quotes in every press conference. So we're very fortunate that we're beyond that.
No doubt. And if he is in that game, that whole revenge aspect is going to be a factor. All right. Speaking of, guys, make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well, guys, has never been this easy. You just heat up, enjoy, and it gives you more time to do what you want. Get outside, for example. This time of year, are you kidding me? Instead of prepping and cooking indoors, Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat. They're delicious, perfect for any active lifestyle. And with 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals, fit your family. Choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus. There's a keto option and more.
Guys and gals, Factor absolutely powers your day with satisfying breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this spring. Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss. Get started at factormeals.com/milehigh50off and use code milehigh50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code milehigh50off at factormeals.com/milehigh50off for 50% off plus free shipping.
All right. Pardon me. Back to the chat, guys. This isn't obviously the first time we've broached the Vaughn possibilities of returning on the show this offseason. I mean, we've talked about it many times, and we've probably headlined an episode around it 2 or 3 times. So it's not exactly fresh offseason fodder, but still sound off in the chat. Do you want to see it? And at what cost, so to speak? What terms would make you happy? Boogmeister, what's up, brother? He says, big dogs. I was waiting for this. I was waiting for his report on going to the Bo Nix passing camp. He says, I met Bo Nix in the flesh at the youth camp. My son intercepted his pass when they were playing catch. Was the best dad moment ever. I also asked him about the Brock Purdy deal. He just laughed. Really cool, man. Some awesome memories, indelible, I'm sure. We appreciate the report on how it went. And I bet that was pretty cool, man. Everything you're describing, especially being able to meet him, the interception, the catch, really cool.
Yeah, Boogie, the next time you watch Bo Nix throw a touchdown on TV, you can turn to your son and say, see, you picked that man off. So it's a really cool memory, like Chad said, and we appreciate you sharing that with us.
And it's not easy to pick off that man, as we know, and he's still just a young guy. Patrick, what's up, brother? In Paradise, I was there myself about a month ago. It was absolutely gorgeous. Even tried myself some of that sweet coffee. He says, aloha, my priest, King Vaughn. Yeah, he is the king, dude. He is the king. He's a Mount Rushmore guy, Bronco Mount Rushmore. Depending on how you want to structure your personal Mount Rushmore in the most objective way, I'm not going to use my own preferences here, Zach, but if you look at it by era / impact, accolades, individual relative to team accomplishments, you got to put Floyd Little, John Elway. Then you start getting into some wiggle room, but I would assert that it's then Terrell Davis and Von Miller. Those would be the four faces that changed with whom or without whom Bronco history is forever. It's just not the same. You don't achieve the things you achieved. You don't climb the mountains that you climbed. So I get it, but dude, he's 36. It's probably time that he hangs it up and signs Zach that one-day contract, retire as a Bronco as he should, call it a career, end up in the Hall of Fame, a few years from now.
Every time we have a guest segment, Chad, we ask the same question. What is your Broncos Mount Rushmore? And people have different answers and people can pick different players and figureheads, but everyone includes Von Miller. Every single person has Von on their list, and for good reason. The guy, after Super Bowl 50, he could have retired and walked into the Hall of Fame. The extra ring he won with the Rams just cements his legacy even more, but that's where he should kind of, call it quits on, right off in the sunset on a semi-decent note. Don't try to go the Emmitt Smith route or so many others, these legends, Chad, that just can't call it a career and look in the mirror.
True. Ronk, so good to see you, big dog. Appreciate the support as always. Saying good evening, Chad, Zach, on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. So good to see you, brother. Thank you so much. Great to see you. And by the way, I forgot to mention, big boy stars from Patrick. Really appreciated that generosity, my friend. You are a prince. Let me see here. We got some. I mean, I don't think there's, because they're friends, dear friends of ours, Zach. The Knoppers are concerned something happened to your eye. Did something happen to your eye?
No, it's allergy season. It happens every single time. So I've been rubbing my eyes today. I have to get some Claritin, but I'm okay. I appreciate the concern, Albert.
It is indeed that time of year. And if you have hay fever, oh boy. Jacob Smith, why is Kay Adams everyone's favorite, Zach? Because she's hot? I think, honestly, that's what he asked, by the way. That's not me saying that. I would say that she's everybody's favorite. He's, it's kind of colloquial. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. But Broncos fans seem to really like Kay Adams, I think, Zach, because she seems to have a little bit of an affinity for the Broncos vis-a-vis Sean Payton.
Yeah, we're all adults here. I mean, she's an attractive woman. Let's call it like it is. But also, she's the only one in the national media sphere that can get any sort of information out of Sean Payton. So I definitely appreciate that.
Okay, Zach, we also, and by the way, guys, there are some stories we can get into happily. In terms of like legit news over the last couple of days, there's been next to nothing. That doesn't mean we're not going to stream and have these conversations. Of course we are. But I only tell you that because we'll probably keep it relatively tight tonight, like 30 to 45. So keep that in mind. Any burning questions, topics, supers, get it in the chat ASAP, and we'll be sure to get them. But Zach, Alex Singleton, I think I myself have written this offseason 2 specific kind of progress, health, recovery updates on my dude. And yet there's another one, and the most recent one, actually, before the one I'm about to mention, was like just 2 weeks ago, right after, I think, either 2-3 weeks ago. Either way, he's in the news again. He talked to Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post, and here's what he said, because, of course, he's coming off the ACL tear suffered in week 3 against the Bucs last year. The linebacker said, quote, to the Denver Post, "I can't give specific numbers, but we have practices in a few weeks, and you guys can see for yourselves where I'm at," close quote. So, Zach, he is probably a little bit ahead of schedule on his recovery so far. He's posted, I want to say it was on his Instagram a couple months back, in footage of him sprinting and whatnot. So Singleton, it sounds like, is at least going to be out on the grass running through drills. How much full speed stuff they have him doing in that voluntary camp, we'll see. But how do you feel about that?
It's good news that the Broncos are getting a starter back, but if there's one inside linebacker I'm concerned with, that would be Dre Greenlaw, considering he's just more talented. He was the big free agent acquisition, and it's kind of a concerning injury considering his previous history in San Francisco. So I'm happy that Singleton's getting healthy. He's still a two-down, relatively restricted player, but he is a good locker room leader, so it'll make the Broncos defense that much better.
No doubt. I'm excited to hopefully get him back. I got to drop this real quick. I keep forgetting. I'm going to bring in these Instagram peeps. They're going to be pissed that I forgot to connect the stream to them. So hopefully this works out. And come on, connect, baby. Come on. There we go. And go live. But Zach, I talked about this in an article yesterday, and it wasn't super, super serious. We're going to grab Sam Baum here in a second. But the Broncos in a vacuum, or perhaps a better way of saying it is, in a perfect world, they have a really solid on paper starting inside linebacker duo. But for the fact that both guys have a recent injury jacket, one's recovering from an ACL, the other one is not that far removed from an Achilles, and then he just suffered a quad injury. But you know who's still out there, Zach? CJ Mosley. Now, on one hand, you go, well, why would, if the whole subject here is a little insurance against a couple of injury, I won't say injury prone, but injury concern type linebackers, why would you want to bring in CJ Mosley, who missed a lot of time last year with a neck, and I think it was a toe, but a couple of injuries last year. But Zach, even though he's starting to get longer in the tooth, I want to say he was a 2014 draft pick off the top of my head. He had it the 2 seasons prior, he combined for well over 300 tackles. He was like the guy. He was still Pro Bowl caliber CJ Mosley. You have one down year based on injury. Wouldn't scare me that much. I wouldn't talk about, say, bringing him in, for example, Zach, is like, hey, here's your 100% fail safe, but you've got a little bit of Evan Mathis money chilling. Would you want to see the former Alabama star come to Denver, or am I up in the night?
I don't think it's too far off the mark, Chad. I mean, personally, I would rather the Broncos put the money toward paying Zach Allen or Benito or Cortland Sutton, but it also depends how they feel about Drew Sanders. We were told earlier this offseason they see Sanders as a future starter in the NFL. So if they're actually genuine with that, then I don't think they need to go out and sign a CJ Mosley. But if they have any concern with Singleton or Greenlaw, or if either of them unfortunately suffer a setback, God forbid, then yeah, I could see that being a possibility for sure.
The big concern is that quad from Dre. That's the thing that's still, I want to believe the Broncos. I just, recent history, there's little things that end up, they play it down in the press. It won't cost them too much time. Next thing you know, guys are starting off the season on PUP lists. You don't see them till October or later. That's my fear, and I'm touching wood as I say that. And CJ Mosley, one of the most prolific, productive linebackers of the era, is chilling out there. If you could make it make sense from a dollars and cents perspective, I mean, at his age, I don't think he's looking to break the bank. I think his APY was something around $8 million off his last contract, like $8.5 million. Well, let's put a pin in that and grab the Duchess, who's jumping in from the top rope. She says,
Michaela.
Hi, Chad, Zach, Scott, and Dylan. Just wanted to have my presence felt. It's felt. Trust. Always felt. Always felt. She says, love you all. We love you too. May the good Lord look out for you all and the Broncos. I mean, not only is she a dear friend, but she is a saint. They only made one, Michaela. God made one, broke the mold, one of a kind, unique. Such an awesome person. Thank you, Michaela. We love you so much.
Michaela, if you can hear how we wax poetic about how much we appreciate and love you off camera, and Scott and I and our little group chats, you are so appreciated, and we are so humbled each and every time you bless us with your presence. Not disingenuous, completely heartfelt. You leave us speechless. We don't know what to say at this point except that we love you forever. Thank you so much.
And it really does help us keep these lights on month after month. As the Ronk says here, Duchess of Mile High Huddle podcast, Michaela from the top rope. That's right. And look, Michaela's been with us from the very beginning when we first started doing these live streams. And I want to say, Zach, we were at the time when we started doing it, nobody else in our little sphere was live streaming every podcast, and now everybody does. I'm not saying it's because of us, but I fielded a lot of calls from people wondering, how are you doing what you're doing? What's going on? And she has become family. Cut to, here we are, 3/4 of the way through May. And the MHH YouTube channel, Zach, is 800 subscribers away from 30,000, which is unbelievable.
Yep.
And it's been really cool to see how the channel is continuing to grow throughout what to me has been, as someone who pays very close attention to these things and has metrics and analytical tools to monitor, the most unprecedentedly weird off down kind of mood for Broncos offseason I've ever seen since MHH has existed. We're still growing. So Michaela, you're one of the big factors behind that and allowing us and helping us and supporting us so that we can continue to grow. And I hope you really do know how much you mean to us.
I feel like each and every time we get on here, Chad, we're talking with literal family. We're one big family under one big roof. We might be a little dysfunctional at times, but what family isn't? And Michaela, you are the matriarch of that household. Thank you so, so much.
That's right. Those of you who are either watching this live right now, pardon me, or watching after the fact on demand, who aren't subbed, help us get to 30,000. We're only 800 subscribers away, and we'll do something really fun to celebrate 30K. That's a massive milestone for us. I remember, Zach, when we celebrated 7K a few years back, and it was like, 7 Elway, and it was this big thing. And we try to give back in those moments, and we plan to do that when we reach 30K. Sam Bam, brother, jumping in, second super chat tonight.
You,
love you, big dog. He says, what are your thoughts on the O-line as of right now? Is Luke Wattenberg likely to be the starting center, or will there be some competition? Also, how do you feel about the O-line's depth? So first things first, this is such an odd misconception that the casual Bronco fan, not you guys, you're the hardcore whack jobs like us. Okay, so you're the sick maniacs. This is not you, but the casuals. And I always use my dad as an example, but he's a guy that he'll read a headline here and there during the off season, but he's one of those wake me up when the season starts kind of guys. And then he'll watch the games. He's not listening to podcasts. He's not reading too many articles, but he's here for the games. You talk to a good chunk of the casuals, Zach, the perception they have is that the Broncos O-line sucks, that it's still a really bad unit. And I think a big part of that is because it was such a trope for so long, post Peyton Manning, and even during some of the Peyton Manning years, Zach, that it's just one of those things that it's kind of sticking. But Sam, and I'm not saying this is you, obviously, Sam, we all have to remember this was a top 1 or 2 ranked offensive line in the NFL last year in pass blocking and run blocking. So they're returning. The good news, Zach, all 5 starters. I'm stoked on it. And Wattenberg's probably, if you got to find a weak link, he's probably the weak link, but he's coming back, contract year. I'm happy with the starting 5, but what are your answers here for Sam?
Anyone that would tell you the Broncos have a crappy O-line is telling on themselves. That would be, like Chad said, a casual or low IQ fan. I'm not afraid to say it. The Broncos O-line is probably one of, if not the best in the entire NFL based on the stats and metrics and data, and as well as Bo Nix plays. So I agree with Chad. I like the starting 5. Wattenberg is really the only question mark, but Sean Payton seems to love him. If there's anyone, Chad, that could push him, maybe Clay Webb, the undrafted lineman. They gave him a hefty signing bonus, but I think Wattenberg is locked and loaded for the starting job again.
No doubt. I feel good about it. The depth is not that great, but it's plausible depth. It's credible, solid depth. It's impossible to have the caliber that's of a starting 5 the Broncos have. You're not going to have that same caliber waiting in the wings either. Like that's the way it works. But Pert, Palczewski at tackle. We'll see if Frank Crum can continue to develop a little in his second year. If not, they'll 86 him. You mentioned Webb, the Georgia kid. I just blanked his name. Yes, the undrafted. So 2 solid undrafted guys plus Forsyth, a couple other guys. It's about as good as you can hope to have, really, when you have that good of an offensive line. Dutch is jumping in again to say,
Thank you,
I'm
Michaela.
far from a saint. I try. I'm a Broncos fan. After all, we are fighters. You're just a great person, very selfless. And very loving and conscientious, and that kind of person, is honestly, it's pretty rare these days. So maybe not a saint. I know maybe that's like me I don't know. I'm not exactly trying to exaggerate or anything here, Zach, but that's kind of the territory in my mind's eye that she occupies. Very dear to me is Michaela. And yes, Broncos country, we are fighters. Amen to that, sister.
Who is a saint? I'm not, Chad's not, Scott's not, no one is, Michaela, but you are an amazing person. And we've gotten to verify that in person, shaking your hand, telling you to your face how much we appreciate you. And we will always do that. So thank you so much.
No doubt about it. Much love and respect to the Duchess and one of the first couple of faces that legit got etched on the MHH Mount Rushmore. So love you so much. Okay. Roy wants to know how would we define a successful season based on last year's results. To me, you can define it several ways. Zach, how would you define a success for the Broncos this year?
Well, if step one was getting to the playoffs, I think step two would be winning a playoff game. And it's kind of interesting. I saw Fox Sports predict the Broncos would win the AFC West and beat Kansas City in the wild card round before losing to Buffalo in the divisional. But that, I think, would be a successful season for Bo Nix in year two. Is at least the floor is 10-7, what they finished last year. The ceiling could be 12-5, 13-4. But I think successful would be getting back to the postseason and winning a playoff game.
Exactly. Just do better than you did last year. For us, the fact that they even made the playoffs, like I was last year, to be frank with you, Zach, I was like, hey, this is a great developmental year for Bo Nix. He's going to get some great experience. And really, in my heart of hearts, what they achieved last year, Zach, was kind of what I expected them to achieve this coming season. But they microwaved that, and now they're in the conversation. So you got to build on it. You got to build on that, not only in the number of wins that you bank during the regular season, but as Zach mentioned, the only way to really measure is take another step forward, win a playoff game and get as deep as you can. Not only that, but let's play up to our level of competition and exceed it. Let's not play down to our competition, as the Broncos have been guilty of at times in the Sean Payton era. And for crying out loud, let's beat the Chiefs in their house for the first time in a decade. Let's get that done this year. That would be a success to me, Zach.
Give them a fat lump of coal on Christmas night. W in my book.
We've got Phil McLaughlin checking in. What is going on, big dog? Good to see you. Says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Zach Allen had 8.5 sacks in addition to 15 tackles for a loss with 61 tackles. Jonathan Cooper, 58 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, 10.5 sacks last year. Who improves the most this year? Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Interesting question, kind of comparing those two guys. That's a really good question. I think it really depends on how much or to what degree, Zach, the Broncos are able to minimize or eat into the insane number of snaps that Allen played last year. So in other words, if you can keep him a little bit fresher, you'll probably end up getting even more bang for your buck. But if we're talking about ceiling that's still up there that hasn't been reached, I'm going to err on the side of actually Jonathan Cooper, because Allen, he's already emerged as a Pro Bowl caliber. He was snubbed last year, but all pro guy. Yeah, he could probably become a double-digit dude as an interior pass rusher. So there's still some ceiling left to scratch, Zach, but I like Cooper as a guy who could continue to grow and perhaps really get into the mid double digits. Like, let's get you to 14, 15 sacks in a year. I think he's got it in him, and he is a much better run defender on the edge than, say, his partner on the other side, Nick Bonito.
This is kind of a difficult question to answer because one hand washes the other, in the sense that Zach Allen is doing so much of the dirty work up front to free up the rushers like Bonito, like Jonathan Cooper, to get the sacks. And also, it's not just tackles, and it's not just sacks that Zach Allen contributes. The pressure, the quarterback hurries, that's all production, even if it's not marked down or highlighted. So I don't know about improves most. They both had good seasons. I think who's more important to the defense, that would be Zach Allen. I look for him to have another Pro Bowl caliber season.
Todd jumping in saying, is the first game against the Chiefs in Denver? Yes. I would love to see a return of Mile High Magic where the Broncos home games are almost guaranteed to be a win. Well, they went 6-2 last year in an 8 home game season. This year, Zach, they get 9. How are you feeling about the home presence of the Broncos with this Bo Nix-led squad?
They're loud and proud, and Broncos fans showed up even in the darkest of times, Chad. That's what makes the fan base so amazing. But with a winning product and fans in the stands, it's a tough place to play in Power Field. The thin air, it's very imposing. And that first game is in Denver. The Broncos did beat the brakes off Kansas City's backups in Denver last season, so I look for them to have another good home record.
And they snapped the 16-game losing streak to the Chiefs in Denver the year prior. So the last 2 times they've met in Denver, Broncos are 2-0. And honestly, if it weren't for that stupid block kick, they'd be 3-0 in their last 3 meetings. But that's neither here nor there, is it? The Ronk jumping in to say Nick Kendall didn't like the NFL giving the Chiefs a bye before they play the Broncos. Talking about the schedule this morning on Broncos for Breakfast. Yeah, I don't know if it's the NFL kind of, is it Freudian? Like, in the same way that the great quarterbacks get the calls, Zach, are the great teams kind of getting the benefit of the doubt, or, the Freudian little boosts here and there? Or is it quite obvious that the NFL is trying to make it all the harder for the Broncos to unseat the Chiefs as AFC West champs for 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, last 9 years?
I don't know. I'm kind of out on this conspiracy. I mean, if the NFL is aiding Kansas City, it's no surprise. They've been doing it for the entirety of the Patrick Mahomes era. But I did notice that Ronk said Andy Reid's record after the bye. I looked it up. 21-4 in his career after the bye. So it's whatever. The Broncos, if they show up and they play their best brand of football, it doesn't matter when Kansas City has a bye. They can go toe-to-toe and they can take him down.
No doubt. No doubt. He's not undefeated after the bye.
Right.
And I just think a lot of the Broncos' moves and how they've built the roster have been to compete with the Chiefs. And they're finally in a position where those moves have culminated and the rubber's met the road. And again, if it's not for just this weird outlier play last year, they beat him with a rookie quarterback twice, granted the second time with the backup. So we'll kind of move that one out of the equation for a minute, but they're right there. I don't care that they're getting a bye before. I get what Nick's saying. It is annoying. I agree with him on that. It's like, really, dude? But I think the Broncos are really in an accountability mindset under Sean Payton. Like, hey, don't give us we're not taking the bye after the Jets game. We're going to take it later. Like, we're going to embrace the obstacles. We're not going to cry about them. We're not going to whine about them. And that'll be one of them. They're going to say, so what? They got to rest before we meet them for the first time this season. We're going to punch them in the grill.
Remember what Sean Payton said? I think it was last season. He doesn't buy, I think more before the Super Bowl, he doesn't buy into the conspiracy the NFL is aiding and abetting the Chiefs. He thinks the Chiefs' success is natural and organic. So I would assume that Sean Payton doesn't want any favors from the NFL. He would actually want the deck stacked against him and make it the Broncos versus the world once more.
Phil, could it be that Xmas game, week 17, will determine the West? Very likely. And that's one thing I do like, actually, Zach, about it didn't necessarily week 17, pardon me, have to be on a Thursday night, a short week, and force us all to work on Christmas. But when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work anyway. So it's like, now it's not that it's forcing me to work, Zach, or you. It's that it forces me to have to like make excuses to the family why I got to go do something I love to do and go talk to my friends on a post-game gut reaction stream or something. It's a little bit different, but nevertheless, I like how the Broncos got those final 2 games, Zach, AFC West games against who? Chiefs, then Chargers to close out the season. So those 2 final games, yeah, they're going to be pivotal in the AFC arithmetic.
That's what I was going to Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The Chargers in week 18 too, that's going to also count. And also in week 14, they play the Raiders. So there's a stretch in the last quarter of the season or so where the Broncos, if they want to take the West, they're going to have to stack up those divisional wins.
Todd, and by the way, guys, we're at about the 2-minute warning. So again, any burning questions, get them in the chat. Apparently the NFL, and he's qualified this, saying the NFL does like dynasties. Free agency was meant to make the league have more parity, but it seems like year after year, we see the same teams at the top. Well, the one thing here's, and this is important to establish first and foremost on this subject, Todd, which is in the pantheon of American pro sports, there is no better parity landscape than the NFL. In the NFL, you see worst to firsts developments on almost a year in, year out basis. And even if it's not a worst to first, like a team like the Broncos, who was predicted to win, 5 games last year, they double that and make the playoffs. That parity and the way salary cap is structured is cool and it's fair. Where you start seeing the the scales imbalance is some teams are just better than other teams. The ownership is smarter. They hire better people to run their front offices. Those people hire better coaches. Those coaches and front offices work better than other teams together to draft the right players, free agency, all that stuff. So, that's where you start, Zach, getting into skill and expertise, and it separates experience, all those things. But first things first, man, is get your head coach and quarterback combo right, and then all things become possible for any NFL team.
Perfectly said. Yeah. The only thing I want to add is basically what you started out with. In other sports, NBA, MLB, it's the same handful of teams every year are the dominant ones, or the ones competing for a title. There's no parity. Whoever spends the most in baseball, or whoever has the super team in basketball, they end up competing. Chad's right. Football is the sport with the most parity, and the Broncos have a window now. It's looking like Kansas City's on the downward slope. Bo Nix is ascending. The Broncos are ascending. Maybe they could become the next dynasty. Go out and take it.
Exactly, brother. Ronk, thank you, pal. So awesome. Saying great show tonight, Chad and Zach on the MHH podcast. Go Bo Broncos. Zach's going to grab a couple of messages for you here before we dip out. And then when we come back from that, we're going to take another look or two at the chat, and I'm going to review and make sure there aren't any stories at MHH that we haven't touched on yet tonight.
Fantastic episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, and myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything else, please, very important, as always, that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Amen to that. Guys, I'm rolling out a new article series at milehighhuddle.com, and it's definitely of the off-season, what else is there to talk about variety, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And that is breaking down the 3 greatest Broncos to ever wear the number. So rolled out the first episode today, and of course, going in numerical, it's number 1. I couldn't go number 0 because there's only 2 Broncos who have ever worn the jersey number 0, so they don't meet the definition of 3 greatest. But obviously, we all know who the number one guy is, and that's this cat right here, Jason Elam. But look forward to those in coming basically by the day. I'm going to probably write one of those per day as we inch to training camp, and it's just a topic or a series that'll kind of help us pass the time, and it's good for conversation. But Zach, there's a couple of analysis angles that we could touch on that we haven't grabbed yet, but they've all come up in the relative kind of organic flow of our conversation, to be frank. So I'm taking one last look at the chat. I think, and by the way, I haven't said hello to Pearl for a minute. Pearl, what's up? I have to watch the pod later. Love you both. We love you too.
Pearl, thank you.
All right. I'm just seeing, let's see, cap management are the ones. Yeah, cap management, Todd. That's what I mean is the owners that make the smartest decisions in who those guys are. GM, cap czar, stuff like that. It makes a huge difference. Interesting. Thank you, Ronk. The Jets are still have the longest drought of missing the playoffs. Kind of crazy. I don't see it turning too soon, Zach. Even though I am a fan, I'm optimistic in the head coaching hire, but they still don't have a quarterback. Their plan A is Justin Fields, so we know kind of where that's headed, Zach.
I'll quote our old dear friend Vic Fangio. You can't win in the NFL without a quarterback. And as far as I'm concerned, Fields is a running back. So good luck to the Jets. We'll see you in London.
All right, guys, a mile high salute and a special shout out to the great super chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on tonight, like the Duchess, Michaela Parker.
Thank you again, Michaela.
2 generous super chats. Top of the show, guys like Sam Bam, the Papa Bear, Patrick, the Ronk. I'm just going to say test prep. It's easier. Much love and respect. And Phil, Tucson Phil in the hizzy. Love you guys so much. Zach and I, we're off until Thursday, but don't miss tomorrow night. You've got some building the Broncos. See what kind of conversation topics they have in store. Mile High Insiders and Broncos for breakfast on Wednesday. Then we'll be back. So have a great start to your week, everybody.
Have a great rest of your Monday. We will see you Thursday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.